Hello from Sojourn Psychology. It is Tara Boothby, registered psychologist. Today, I want to talk with you about why is it so hard to ask for help? So asking for help is really a common sort of hurdle or block that we discuss with adult clients in therapy. It's also something personally that I'm aware of. I have a really hard time asking for help. So maybe you've thought about this for yourself or you've noticed it in other people. I want to talk about it through an attachment lens. Of course, is that a big surprise? Let's talk about the attachment story that's going on behind each one of us when we're having a difficult time asking for help. So sometimes how I will theorize this position is I notice when somebody has a difficulty asking for help, it can feel like they're hard to hold. So what do I mean by that? A person who is difficult to hold relationally, that's some sort of like circle of security language, right? Like when I am the symbol of attachment, or when I am in a parent position, or I am in a spouse position with my husband, when I'm in the clinical position, I'm holding the relationship. So there's this space where I know that I am leaning into being a symbol of bonding. I'm saying I will be bigger, stronger, wiser, and kind in this moment. I will meet you in your unmeetable place. Um, and when somebody really doesn't know, they're having a difficult time trusting to lean in to me, then it can feel like they're hard to hold. So I want to say, come, let me be with you. Let me help you organize your feelings. Let's have a moment of safe haven. So this is Bowlby's language. That safe haven is this space where one person or a child comes into their parent, and the parent is going to be with them in a way that co-regulation can occur to soothe the child so that the child can go out into their secure base experience again. But this happens in all of our relationships. This happens in the therapy room. There's a lot of safe haven experiences, hopefully, hopefully in therapy, where someone is coming in and leaning into this experience, saying, hey, psychologist, could you help me organize what's going on? Can you help me make sense of this story, of my life story, my experience, what happened just outside when I was driving my car, this sad thing, this confusing thing? They're bringing in content, and then we're going to try to get beneath the surface into the more primary emotion, the attachment experience. So some of our EFT theory, so Sue Johnson's model. Underneath the surface, we're looking at the primary, the deeper emotion, and then the attachment fears, the attachment needs, the attachment yearnings, and trying to make sense of that to better land in Virginia Satir's language, the person's core I am. This is my true self, my essence, from the sort of infinite love theology wheelhouse. We call this our pure of heart nature. Love all this language. I want to live in my pure of heart existence, and I want to help other people to live in their pure of heart existence. When we're unsure that we actually have innate goodness, then we live more in our attachment fears and our unmet attachment needs, and our more primary emotions can feel very wobbly. And so that's when it makes us hard to hold. And when we're having a hard time being held by another, then the meaning that we make is, I can't ask for help. So I see this in two different ways. We typically notice that when our attachment system is activated, people will either move in for co-regulation or out for self-regulation. And there's all sorts of different attachment language that we can use. So mover outers, I just call us mover outers or mover inners. I'm of the mindset that we are all full of a variety of capacity. In some relationships, I'm more prone to move in for co-regulation, and in some relationships, I'm more prone to move out for self-regulation. Typically, I'm more of a mover outer. I like to try and fix it on my own and get inside and believe in the fable of self-sufficiency. Whereas somebody who's more prone to moving in for that like co-regulation, or let's meet in this problem together, is more of that like, yeah, like I need help. I need to be with somebody else. So you can see the subtle nuances starting to show up. Somebody who maybe is more rooted or connected with their attachment fears might be more prone to a self-sufficient position where they would say, I can't ask for help. Whereas somebody who is more rooted in their unmet attachment needs might be more of a mover inner, might be more of one who says, I am dependent, I need help. Where when the I can't ask for help shows up in this position, I need help. Why won't you help me? You see these subtle nuances. Both of them make it really tricky and fall into this like, I can't ask for help. When I asked for help in the past, nobody helped me. So I figured out I should do this on my own. The other position is I've learned to ask for help. I need people to help me with my problems, but nobody's there. People aren't listening to me any longer. It's very fascinating when we get under the surface. These are unique personal stories. Each one, each one is the narrator of their own life. Each person is a mystery to be discovered. Why is it so hard to ask for help? And again, this is why it's so risky when we just stay on the surface with ourselves and with other people. We reject help. One person rejects help for one reason, one person rejects help for another reason. At our core position is because in the past, when we needed help, help wasn't there, help wasn't safe, help didn't teach us that help was helpful. But there's a variety of story and content that is over top of that, the layers and the layers of why each person is having a hard time. We're not trying to have a hard time. We're not trying to give others a hard time. I think that when somebody comes into therapy, they want to figure out how to ask for help. I think that there's subtle markers that are included in even the most self-sufficient people, that we want relationship. I believe evolutionary psychology is really onto something when we hold space for both our nature and our nurture, that without nurture, without relationships, we cannot evolve into the fullness of our human expression. So even those who have really learned to isolate themselves and to have immense distrust for other people, there's a curiosity knit in the fibers of who we are to try and figure out, how could relationship work for me? So I'm getting very philosophical here, but it's this tricky problem when help has become so unsafe for us, whether somebody in our early childhood experience, the symbols of attachment, our caregivers, our parents, were so preoccupied with their own lives that they didn't see us when we were in times of need. And then that person, a child who was not seen for needing help or dismissed, rejected, given instrumental love, that child really learns to do things on their own and not to ask for help. Whereas a child who has maybe experienced too much help, parent is anticipating all the needs, parent is holding on very tightly, a parent who is maybe drawing attention towards themselves. They want to help so that the child stays close by. That creates a different sense of why it's hard or unsafe to ask for help. Also, too, when a parent is overly helpful, this is what's confusing, because it looks like these parents that are like super duper loving octopus moms holding on tight in mesh systems, that they're just like filling up their child's little love bucket so much. But that's a false notion, because it's a threat to completely soothe the child's problem, because this parent is trying to keep their child so close. So you can see again in the early childhood experience, some of the difficulty of asking for help is really rooted in the child's experience of closeness. Did I have closeness? Did I experience emotional warmth in the way that I needed? Did I have too much closeness? Did I experience too much emotional heat, too much emotional volume? The noise of all the feelings of my caregiver was so loud that it became scary or uncertain of how to manage the volume of my emotions or how to stand on my own without immense help. So curious here from a parenting perspective as well, like it's hard to figure out how to help our children. It's hard to figure out how to help the people that we love. And then our behavior can get in the way. Our blocks show up. So we are overly helpful or we are overly fix-it. And there's a variety underneath those two sort of typical categories of how our blocks get in the way. But when we get slow and we start to consider our own depth of story, what's going on beneath our own surface, it allows us more capacity to have empathy for the other person's deep underneath the surface attachment story. And so if we can get slower with ourselves, and if we can do this discovery of our own inner cosmos and this myriads of story and emotion and contemplation and perspective and unmet needs and fears that are rooted in just our real good quality of longing for connection with ourselves and with others. If we get slow and we listen to our internal working model, that's a place where we can draw more capacity to connect in with someone else's, to better listen to their internal working model and the complexity of their inner cosmos, all of their story, all of their emotion, all of their perception and meaning, and all that's going on inside, rather than just what's on the surface. This sounds a lot like emotionally focused attachment-based work. Dr. Sue Johnson, she's such a genius. This also has a lot of nodding towards the circle of security material, which is beautiful. And I appreciate how those theories have informed my life. And my theory, love and love's energy, closely is connected to this. How do we lean into self-love? How do I get slow to connect with myself so that I can have a more positive view of self? Because in my positive view of self, I can learn to have hope to lean in to ask for help from another, or I can have hope and both. I can also have hope to be helpful to another. And that really disrupts my view of other people. So not only do I want a positive view of self, I want a positive view of others in this space. Positive view of self and positive view of others. How does that impact our ability to ask for help? And then, of course, because I like to notice the grander space, the grander cosmos that we're included in. It's not just the hope of positive view of self and positive view of others, but it's also this love's energy, this grander mass of inclusive love that we're all included in. And when we can lean into a positive view of infinite divine love, and we can try to unpack that one, okay? That takes some time. But when we can better see that we're all connected to this, need for nurture, this love science, this spiritual connectedness to what is true love, that also just changes our capacity to, again, bud relationship with ourselves, bud relationship with other people, because we are, being nurtured and nourished in this infinite divine love that we're all included in. Yeah, so it takes some time when we want to get slow and listen, and there's no quick fix. There's no how-to kit on how to ask for help better. A lot of it is getting slower, listening to good podcasts, listening to good YouTubes, reading good books. I will put the link for my book below. And actually the Audible is coming out pretty soon, hopefully August 2025. It's been a slow process, but we're getting closer. Okay, it's hard to ask for help. And you have your own story why it's hard for you to ask for help, just like I have my own story. But I am a believer that as we lean into our inner working model and discover our own story, we can find the reasons why we have become afraid to ask for help. And we can process through that with ourselves and then find emotionally safe relationships where we can practice asking for help. And we can find a way to be emotionally safe with ourselves so we can practice offering authentic help. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope you're having an amazing day. Peace and love.